In this lesson we will continue with our jewelry designing, and we will be creating a slightly more complicated piece than we have done before. But first of all, we're going to take a quick look at the Inquire Ribbon Tab. So let's start off by creating a new file, generic template, and I'll just name the part. Okay, so our Inquire tab is this one here. Within the Inquire tab, we have commands that allow us to make inquiries about our design, our parts. Some of these commands are a bit beyond what we need, so we will not take a look at all of them, but others are very useful. Okay, so let's start off by creating a block. Just left clicking. Now I can define my dimensions here. If on occasion you need to enter a value that is not in millimeters, for example if you want to enter a value in inches, then we can do so by typing .in after our value. So we have about 20 millimeters on the length here. Let's say we want to make this 1 inch in length. So we would type 1.in, press enter, then we have a 1 inch length. Okay, so that's about 25 millimeters, 2.5 centimeters. Okay, so this is how we can input dimensions in inches as opposed to millimeters. Okay, so confirm the operation, and now I'm going to place another block just anywhere. Okay, we're just going to be using these to make inquiries about and show our commands. Okay, finally I'm going to create a cone. I'm going to drag it down into here and open it up. Okay, you can't really see what I'm doing, but I'm going to remove this cone from this block. Okay, so we have a hole in here. Okay, so now let's take a look at our Inquire tools. First up, we have our measure commands here. Okay, we can make inquiries about measurements within our design. First of all, we have distance. Okay, we have several options here. We can measure the distance between 2 points in space. Okay, left clicking to place the points. Okay, we also have our inputting options for these points, so we can place them more precisely. Okay, our other options, instead of from point to point, we can do geometry to point, geometry to geometry, and plane to points, and they're fairly intuitive. Okay, so our point to point measurements can come in very handy. Let's say we pick our 2 points from corners to corner, like that. Okay, so we can measure the distance, and here is the value for that distance. We also have the X, Y and Z distances, so the distances travelled in each direction. Okay, and obviously these will be the dimensions of our block. Okay, in our options panel we can play around with which coordinate systems we want to actually measure, and we have various other options available. Now we are also able to assign a variable to this distance. Okay, so we looked at how variables work in the previous lesson. Let's enter a name, corner to corner. Okay, now when we confirm the operation, a variable will be created with this value, the distance that we have just measured. Okay, so confirm the operation. Let's look in our expressions. We'll open up that folder, and you can see we have our corner to corner values. We have the total distance. Okay, so if we modify the dimensions of our initial block, then our expression, our variables here, are also going to update according to that, like so. Okay, so this can come in handy from time to time. Okay, similar to our distance command, we have angle, arc, length, area, 3D surface. Okay, and these are going to work in a similar fashion. You have various options available within this command. This particular one, the 3-point method, we pick a base point and then we can pick 2 points, and the angle will be measured between those 2 points with respect to the base point. Okay, again we can assign variables to this. Okay, next up we have arc. Okay, we have a 3-point method here. We pick 3 points on an arc, confirm the operation, and then we get the arc data. Okay, we can inquire the radius, the angle with respect to the points that we picked, the center of curvature, and the direction that is normal to the arc that we have specified. Okay, so all of these are fairly intuitive commands. The length, we are able to inquire lengths of curves, including edges. Again, we can assign variables to these. We then have the area. This command will calculate the area within a boundary. Okay, so we define the boundary by picking edges or curves. We also have our 3D surface that will calculate the surface area of a face by picking a particular face. Okay, confirm, and there we have our area and our boundary length. Okay, so these are our measure commands. Next up we have our entity info. Okay, we've seen this before when previously we right clicked on a shape and navigated to entity info. Okay, so this is the same thing. We left click on the command. Okay, we don't get an options panel pop up straight away, so it may be hard to tell if we're in that command, but to ensure that we are, we can take a look in the lower left hand corner of our screen here. This text here is going to tell us what we can do in our current state. Okay, so we can see that we're currently within this command, which is telling us to pick an entity. Left click an entity. Okay, so when we select our shape, here we have our entity info within our entity browser here. Okay, we are commonly interested in this top one here. We looked at it before. It tells us if our shape is closed or open. There's many other pieces of information within here. Okay, we can also navigate between our shape entities. Okay, we can see we have 2 shapes here. Okay, so that's entity info. Okay, next up we have coordinate, where we can define a coordinate. Okay, so this is quite obvious. We have our right click, input options, select our point. We can assign variables to the points. Okay, so this is going to tell us the coordinate of a point with regards to the global system. Okay, incidentally, there is also a hotkey that allows us to display the coordinates at which our cursor is at, and that is Control K. If we change our entity filter, let's change it to edge, we have our cursor on this edge. If we press Control plus K, let go, we can see our coordinate information down here, and you can just press Control K again to disable that coordinate display. Next up we have some more commands. We know what the curvature plot does. We looked at this within the 3-point curve, and in the modify commands, when we were using these commands we had access to this curvature. Okay, so this allows us to display the curvature of a curve. Okay, the other commands within here is beyond what we need, so we're not going to take a look at them. Next up we have a curve list connectivity command. This will inquire a curve list. Okay, so remember, a curve list is a collection of curves that we specify. This command will inquire a curve list and show any gaps that we have between our curves. Okay, moving on, we have an analyze face command. Okay, we've seen part of this before within our display modes, our analyze display mode. Okay, so we can also access this analyze from within our Inquire Ribbon Tab. We can analyze faces. We have many more options available. Again, this is not something that we will often need. Okay, but this first one, our contour striping, can be a useful tool to check our surface curvatures or deformities of surfaces. So let me just chuck in a fillet on this edge. Okay, that's fine at that value. Now we will come into our Inquire Analyze Faces command. Okay, so these lines can tell us if we have a good tangency at our surface intersections. Okay, now the fact that these lines are staying connected and not being broken means that we have tangencies at the meeting point of these two faces. Okay, so these two faces are tangent at their meeting point, and this is shown by an unbroken line. However, we do have a bend in the line at that point. Okay, so this means that our curvature condition has not been kept. Now, in the case where we have completely broken lines, such as here, means that we have no tangencies. This is an abrupt edge. So this is the Analyze Faces tool, and it can be useful for checking that we have our nice tangencies that we want. Okay, we have a few more commands in here. We're not going to take a look at them. Moving on, we have our Inspect Model panel, and this can offer some useful insights into our design. Our Mask Properties command allows us to pick a shape. When we confirm the operation, we'll have information about the mass properties of that shape. Okay, so we can get this information from our Entity Info command. However, this Mass Properties command allows us to assign a variable for these mass properties and also record them. So let's say call this block, we check the record information, confirm. Again, this is going to record the information to our history, to our expressions folder. Okay, so we have the block area, volume and mass. Okay, so it can be nice to have these within our expressions tab. Moving on, we have part statistics. This is going to list all of the entities that we have in our design. Okay, so in here we can see that we have 2 shapes, 15 faces, edges, okay, etc. Okay, the associated file will skip. Our section command. Okay, again we do have access to this one in our display drop down, like the Analyze Face command. Okay, the section can offer us useful insights into our design. Okay, so it allows us to see section views of our designs. Okay, so you can see when I left clicked on this command, we had this box thrown around our design. And with this we can section our design. Okay, so we can left click on one of these sides. For example, the back here, if we left click on it, it's going to activate it. Then if we move our cursor, we're able to see a section view of our design. Okay, so we can have a good view of this hole that we created, this combine remove. From the top it may be hard to tell what kind of combine remove we have here, what kind of hole we have here. Using the sectioning view, we can get a better representation of it. Okay, so we can left click to stop the drag. We can also left click on a different side and move this in and out. Okay, so there seems to be a lot to this options panel, but it's really quite straightforward. We could change to a plain section view. Okay, instead of having the encompassing envelope, you're just using a plane. Again, we can change the location of this plane. Okay, and we can also have more exact control over how much we are taking in our section from within here, the section placement. Like so. Okay, we have display controls. This is just going to modify how our section is displayed. Okay, so you can play around with this. Finally, if I just pick, say, this one, get a section view. Finally, we have the ability to insert curves on our section. Okay, so this will insert curves on our section view, we can also insert a datum on the section view plane at the center of the section view. Okay, so if we confirm the operation, let's navigate back to a shaded display mode. I'll blank out this shape. You can see here is the curves that we put in at that section view and the datum. Okay, so this will have use from time to time.